welcome to episode 2 of the Switchback with Connor Pack, and I'm joined with a very special guest named Anna. Anna, do you want your last name to be known publicly, or should I just say Anna?
You can say my last name. That's okay.
Anna Stringham.
Anna Stringham.
Anna, who is Anna? Who are you?
I am. Well, first of all, Connor is my first cousin once removed.
Yep.
So that's really awesome.
It's crazy.
We've had a lot of good times.
Yep.
Great cousin vibes.
Yep.
And I think that's the main label that I identify myself. I'm
Okay, you tell anybody you meet on the street, even if you don't know who I am, just you're Connor Pack's first cousin.
I'm Connor Pack's first cousin once removed. But yeah, other than that, I'm 21.
Damn.
I'm living here. And I like to work.
Wow.
I like to go to school.
Wow.
I like to go to the gym.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's me.
You're not your uncle. My great uncle is your dad, who is my dentist.
Whoa.
And so great uncle.
Right.
And so that applies to that relation. So first cousin once removed, you could call it great cousin.
Right. That's actually cool.
I don't think it actually is a real thing.
Yeah, but it could be. It should be.
Dang. Well, Anna is very insightful and has a lot of knowledge. She is an expert in life. And so she knows everything. So she's going to talk with us today on the podcast about these various topics that will culminate into something somewhat sensical. But first,
nice.
Are you on social media very much?
I am.
You are?
Depends what kind of social media.
Do you know about trends and the latest news?
I'd like to think that I'm up on the trends. I don't know if I'm totally, the best one to ask about pop culture references.
Okay, me
but
neither.
I know what's happening to some degree.
I know it occurs. Mm-hmm. Do you know, I kind of know about this, just kind of. Do you know about the beef going on right now in the rap world?
Okay, I've heard something about Drake and Kendrick Lamar.
What do you know about that? Because I don't know much.
I've heard that there's something between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, and that's as far as it goes.
Okay, I read an article about it just to know what's going on, and they swear a lot on the tracks, and they release different diss tracks in each other.
Interesting.
Drake was like, I don't like you, and then Kendrick was like, I don't like your face, and then it got crazy, and so there's a lot of beef.
Dang.
A lot of beef. What do you think about this in terms of how it affects society? How does this rap battle, this diss track feud affect life?
I think that's a great question. So when it comes to, internet beef in general, I think it's always a negative thing.
Really?
I don't like how it tears people apart, But I'm not a fan of conflict.
That's true. But what if that diss track helps someone in, the situation they're going through? They can diss someone else.
I guess that's true. I think it's okay to make a diss track, but I don't necessarily vibe with the whole putting out in the world so everyone can diss them with you. You don't want to ruin them, ruin their career.
So what should Drake and Kendrick do instead?
I think they should just call each other. I think they should just, talk this out. Everything starts with good communication.
Yeah.
If you have a conflict, you're supposed to resolve it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I really don't know much about internet stuff, but I remember 6-7 years, this is a while ago, and I was 17. I wasn't 7. A while ago, whenever I was 17,
right.
5 years ago. Do you know who Jake and Logan Paul are?
Yes.
So they had a rap battle feud, right?
They would.
And then they came together, and the opening of the track was a recording of their mom saying, boys, forgive each other. And then the song was I love you, my bro. So I think
nice.
Jake and Kendrick should do that.
I think they should do that too.
Regardless of this specific situation, beef occurs in life in general, and it's a hard thing. And I remember one time we had beef.
What?
I don't think you remember this, and I totally forgot about this until today, as I was thinking of Anna Stringham and beef. Do you know what this is?
No, but
okay.
I'm curious.
So it was my 17th birthday party, and we were playing spoons.
Oh.
And I just remember this today, and I was looking through my photos, and I actually still have the video for some reason. So we're gonna watch this video. What's going on? We're playing this game called Spoons. We pass the cards back and forth.
Gets heated.
And then we grab the spoons super fast, and the final two happened to be me and Anna.
Yeah.
And we had intense music going on in the background, and we had some beef, and so we're gonna play this clip and react to it. I look the same, but also not.
That was when I had really intense orthodontics. You can tell by
really
my lisp.
So, there's beef going on. What were your thoughts in this moment? I'm not sure if you've thought about this for years.
I haven't thought about this for years.
Me neither.
This is a good chance to reflect. I think in that moment, I was thinking, I really don't want to lose. There was a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, I think I was just shocked that I made it that far, honestly. Yeah. I usually don't win games.
Yeah,
so.
me too. I was feeling all the emotions. I forget what we had going on. I think we had like interstellar music.
Probably.
It was like, oh.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's see what happens. Let's see this beef evolve.
We should just spoon flip.
So this is kind of crucial, not to give away anything, but for the listeners out there who can't see this visual, the spoon head is facing me. I didn't actually flip it. I just kind of tossed it in the air. And so I kind of do have the advantage here. It's closer to you physically, but I have like the grip with the spoon head. And so not the most fair on my part.
It should have been horizontal.
It should have been. I don't know why. I think I was trying to cheat.
And I obviously just wasn't smart enough to realize that was an issue.
Yeah, okay, I got knocked, okay. I still have the advantage. I can feel the tenseness.
I like that we're playing with rook cards, too. Oh no, and the crowd goes crazy. Goes crazy.
And so I just grabbed the spoon and I'm lying down on the floor. And my other cousin, I think Jevin, is slapping me. And yeah, Jevin, he lives on the other side of the world right now.
He's in Australia.
He's on the upside down. Not Stranger Things, but...
When he gets back, can we do a three-way podcast with Jevin?
I think we should. I think we do have the facilities for that. Good. So, yeah, we should. And so, anyways, let's talk about that beef.
Yeah.
How did that affect you in your high school career? Everybody knew that you had lost that game of spoons. All 10 people in that room.
You know, that was a really humbling time of my life. First of all, I had orthodontics, so I had a lisp. Really bad lisp.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Second, I lost in spoons.
Yeah.
And I also think that I had a haircut I didn't like at the time.
Oh, really?
So just all those things going together, it was a great time of growth.
Time of growth for you.
Yeah.
And so, you were 16 there, 17 there?
About 16.
16, yeah, I guess, yeah. If I was turning 17. I'm like a couple months older than Anna for the listeners at home.
Yeah.
If you wanted to know
context.
For context. So yeah, she was 16. That probably didn't help your self-esteem. Losing the game of spoons. No. I mean, that's not good.
But I think I recovered.
How? How did you recover?
Because luckily, I had some good friends at the time, and they were at this party.
They were
as well.
Okay.
So I think they were good, and saying, it's okay. Like you win some, you lose some.
You win some,
you
lose some.
And I also felt good that I had made it to second. Yeah. A lot of people can say they made it to second in spoons. So.
Totally. Well, this is our little intro we've done to our podcast, and you looked back at where you've been. You got to second place. In that moment, it was hard, but looking forward, or I guess looking back now, but looking forward at that time, you were able to pave an optimistic path of healing.
Yeah.
After that,
I was able to heal from that experience.
Totally. And so on the Switchback, we look back at where we've been, where we are right now, and where we're going, and we just talk about life and what we can learn. And I'm learning from Anna today, and so. With that intro, how just broadly, how have you been able to just use failure to your advantage? Any examples in your life recently of times maybe not you haven't failed, but things haven't gone your way and you've grown from that experience?
That's a good question. Wow. I think the one that immediately came to my mind is, and I wouldn't necessarily say this is like a failure, but definitely a thing I had to work through, like an expectation that I had that wasn't met. But so I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as well, like Connor talked about in his last podcast. But so girls go for a period of 18 months, generally. And that was always my plan. I was very excited to go on a mission. That was always something I wanted to do. But then about halfway through my mission, I got quite sick and had to deal with a lot of different health challenges that made it so not only could I not do what I wanted to do as well, and I was so tired, so I just felt like I wasn't doing as good of a job, but I also was unsure if I'd even be able to complete the whole time. And so I've always been kind of a perfectionist, had high expectations of myself. But when in that time where I felt like the weakest and like I didn't have that much strength, that's when I felt God's love the most. And when I realized that, you know, our worth is never based on what we're doing or our outputs. We can find joy in the things we create, obviously, but that God loves us at our worst and He loves us at our best as well. And I just remember that was a really life-changing experience for me, because I always knew that God loved me regardless, but I really came to know that on my mission. Yeah, that even if I'm failing at or think that I'm failing, He sees in our potential. He'll help us where we are and help us to move forward. And I was able to do so much more on my mission after that. I was able to get better and complete it. So
kind of giving, I mean, through God, through Christ, but like giving yourself grace too, to be able to have that weakness at that point.
Yeah, and realize that weakness isn't a sign of not being loved by God or not being good enough, but weakness is actually just an opportunity to like realize how much Christ can help us, and it's really empowering. Actually, we all have weaknesses, so
that's awesome.
Cool.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I also went on a mission, as the listeners at home will know, and I didn't have any trials exactly the same as yours, but you know, hard periods. I remember last summer, so summer 2023, I served in Arizona, and it was really hot, and we biked everywhere, and I'd been biking everywhere for over a year at this point, and I got really tired. And it was the hottest July on record, which is important to the story, because like it was like literally messing with my head. And I had a lot of days where I just like, I didn't, not because of the heat, honestly, it probably was because of the heat, I didn't realize it, but just, I didn't want to like do stuff, but I also had a lot of pressure building up in my head. Like I have to be doing so much stuff, and I have to be finding all these new people to teach compared to other people, and just a lot of comparisons I was trying to do. And it's not cabin fever or ocean fever. What am I trying to say? Like the sun was affecting my head. There's some name for that.
Yes.
I think in somewhere. But I, you know, similar, very low level compared to yours. But yeah, just giving myself the grace. Like this is hot, and I should be drinking more Gatorade and water, and not being outside we weren't outside for hours at a time, because it was like for your Celsius users, like 45, 50 Celsius some days. And so, you know, just giving myself the leeway and the space to fail, and not fail, but just be weak and be not perfect. And so just kind of broadly, we're both 21. We're both in our 20s, and I know we can't really compare ourselves to us being future ages, because we haven't been in our 30s or 40s yet, but we've been 17, we've been 20, we're 21 now, so grown up, right? But you know, there's a lot of there's a lot of, compared to other times in our life, we have a lot more stresses and a lot more responsibility, and a lot less of like a concrete structure of how our life should go. Because I mean, like when you're in high school, there's a lot of variety you can do, but you are in grade 10 or grade 11, and you have a general idea. And then afterwards, the farther away you get from high school, I've found, which is like only like 4 years for me, but you know, there's less of a concrete way you should be doing things. And it's easier, I think, to feel overwhelmed by not being to a point where you should be, or you think you should be. And so just as like, you know, since you've got home from your mission, and just in your life, especially recently, talking about, you know, being in your 20s, how have you been able to cope with undesirable situations, and how have you been able to maintain joy amidst just general adversity in your life, whether it's hardcore or big stuff, or even just day-to-day inconveniences?
Right. That's actually a really good question. I think that was one of the things I struggled with most after coming home from my mission. Is I'd always had a plan. It was, you know, go to high school, finish high school, do a year of university, and then go on my mission. And then I came home and I realized, wow, the rest of my life isn't necessarily up to me. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I guess I'll just take it day by day. But I think just leaning into the excitement of it, of there's so many opportunities. It's so lucky that I don't know what's going to happen. Like, there's so many things that God has in store that I don't even know yet, which I find just exciting. And it can scare me sometimes, but something that really helps me is something I learned on my mission is just how important daily prayer and scripture study is. And it's so simple, but that's what brings me joy every single day, because it reminds me that prayer reminds me, number one, that I'm not doing it on my own, because making these decisions and navigating adulthood on my own does sound really scary, but realizing that I have God and that it matters what I do today. And then scripture study just reminds me that there's a greater eternal plan. Like, to think celestial in the way of whatever that, what President Nelson said. And it really does help me. And it helps me to think about others. And I think the third thing is just turning outwards. Just realizing no one knows what we're doing, so everyone just deserves to feel loved right now. And a happy and loved person can do it.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Totally. I like all you kind of said in your last one, but all three of those examples are kind of turning outward, with prayer turning to God and turning your scriptures outward spiritually, I guess, not just being narrow-minded in your own thoughts, lurking to the words of prophets, and then, just literally just turning outward to other people. I know I experienced when I've zeroed in on myself, and I guess when I got home from my mission, which was only 2 months ago, which wasn't that long ago, I've had periods, this is like in the past 8 weeks, this is not even that far of a span I'm talking about, but I've had periods where I'm really good at daily prayer and scripture study, and periods where I'm not. I can't compare myself to the standard I was on my mission, being like a full-time, not employee, but basically employee for the church and representative of Christ. Like, we had a lot more time dedicated. Your life was dedicated to, sharing the gospel. And so, I haven't been perfect at that, but days where I've been better at turning outward to God and prayer, and especially just turning to other people and focusing on how I can help other people, as opposed to when I got home, I made a big list. It's still actually on my desk, which is just around the corner, but a little laminated thing of my goals between when I got home and when school starts, university in the fall. And I already have not met those quotas already, but it's laminated on my wall. And so I'm keeping it there for now, because I'm not going to meet this quota of some of these things I've decided to do. I decided I wanted to run 3 races, 5K, 10K races, which I could still, but I haven't had, maybe not the time. I guess looking back, I maybe had the time, but I just haven't trained as much as I maybe could have. But combined with 20 other objectives I was trying to meet, I can't really meet all of those. And so when I focus more on other people, or even just go out and see other people and don't just stay by myself, I'm able to find a lot more optimism, I think, to manage all of these things. And let's take it to like school. I guess we're both in school, or I'm going into school. You're in school, summer right now. But how have decisions you've had to make and uncertainties in your degree program helped you to understand yourself better as a person, and I guess also just applying it back to the general theme, just cope with undesirable situations or uncertainties?
I think reminding myself, it all comes back to knowing who you are with God and understanding that God loves you. I think for me too, and realizing that God wants me, or that God has a plan, but He also wants us to have joy. So He's supports what will bring us joy. And I guess bringing this back to school, so I started a Bachelor's of Science in Agriculture. With a major in sustainability. And I don't really, people ask me why I chose to do that. I can't really remember why. I honestly don't know. I was interested in sciences, and I was told that's a really good industry in Alberta, which it is.
Yeah, it is.
And that there will probably be some opportunities. So I kind of, not really knowing what I wanted to do out of high school, I was well, I'll just start on something, see where it takes me. And then I ended up, through this degree, getting a job for this summer, which is communications in agriculture, which was really cool. But through this job, I've learned that I really enjoy communications. I enjoy that aspect of it. most. And I also learned that in my mission a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably going to pivot more into that. And it's just cool how one decision can build on another thing, and just exploring and having the faith to just explore one thing at a time, and you don't necessarily know where it will lead you. I still don't necessarily know where it will lead me, but it becomes a little bit clearer each like step forward that I take. So just focusing on the next thing I can do.
Totally.
Which is hard because I love to plan ahead and love to have an end goal, but I'm getting better at just trying to be okay with uncertainty.
Totally.
Yeah.
I had similar, not the same program, but like I was in school here in Calgary taking business, and it went well. And I just decided I didn't want to do that anymore because I didn't know what in business I wanted to do. And I'm like, I'll do education. So I took a couple online courses before my mission, like some through Athabasca, in education. And I'm like, for the first year and a half of my mission, I'm like, I'm gonna be a teacher. And then one day, I forget what it was. I think we had taught a family with a bunch of kids and stuff. And I like kids. I don't hate kids. Like I've taught swim lessons before, and I enjoy being with kids. But I enjoy being with kids for like an hour once a week in that one session, and then having a different group the next hour. Like I wouldn't want to have that same group of 30 kids to deal with all the time and all that. And so I decided through lots of prayer and just consideration, I felt very good about going into psychology. So that's what I'm going into now, but maybe I'll change again. I don't know, right? But lots of, you always want to, you and I think we're similar in that way. We want to plan ahead and have it structured, but that's not how life works. If you know the Peanuts cartoons, like Charlie Brown, at all, do you know who, if you know at all, who Peppermint Patty is and Marcy? Marcy's like black hair with like the round glasses.
Okay.
And, if you've seen like the Great Pumpkin, whatever that is, they're in that. I when I was like 12 or 13, my parents got me for Christmas this thing from like Costco, like this really big book of like all the comic strips for the Peanuts in the 80s. So it's like it was in the paper every day, and so it was like all of that in one. It was called The Big Book of Peanuts. I still have it because it's fun to read. And I think I read the entire thing, which took forever, but I did. And one of them, it was like an ongoing series. Like the strips will line up to each other for like 20 of them. And it's like a story, then it starts something else. And it's Peppermint Patty, who's like really like the joke with her ongoing is she keeps on getting D- in all of her assignments and almost failing. And then Marcy's like super smart and like can do like Einstein level stuff, and they're like 7 years old. And so they're having this yelling match for some reason about like Peppermint Patty wants to be like chill and just live life, and then Marcy's like wants to like be planned for everything. And so they break up as friends, I think. I'm quoting this wrong probably. And then Marcy's like, you're right, I have everything planned. I already have all three of my kids signed up for preschool. And she's like 7 years old. And so as a kid, I was 12 years old, which is a kid. I thought that was funny, but I'm like, that's not a bad idea. It's an exaggeration, but you want to have things planned out. Of course, don't have your kids that haven't been born yet registered in preschool. But, looking back and applying to my life now more, yes, you don't want to fail of your assignments, but it's okay to be like Peppermint Patty and be a little bit more chill and just be happier with how life goes and try your best, but don't just get so caught up in this plan. You have to keep on editing and calendaring to do things perfect. And so
I like that. And I also think for myself, I would always expect or plan too much for what is really realistic. I'd have these big hopes, which is great, but then I just feel discouraged. Whereas if I just take life a little bit more, like you were saying, like one day at a time, and a little bit more chill, like Peppermint Patty, I find a lot more joy because I'm doing everything I can. I realize, I lived another good day. There's actually a lot to be grateful for, and I can do even better tomorrow, or try better. So
yeah, totally. You can just have that growth mindset.
Yeah,
totally. Well, I think I told you first or my brother and someone else first, but like I was making a podcast. It started out as a joke, and then I decided to actually do it. But I was like spitballing names in my car that one day, and I told the story in my last episode, but I decided to call it the Switchback and explain all that. But the name I was holding on to for a solid like minute and a half was Finding Joy in the Journey. Finding Joy in the Journey, sorry. And then I realized, I'm not sure if it's copyrighted, but it is a talk it's the name of a talk given in 2008 by the former president of the church, Thomas S. Monson, Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, that is. This isn't an exclusively religious podcast, but
anything in my brain goes, and you're also part of the church, and so just, you know, right? And so I was taking jot notes today, and I don't know why I wrote it this way, but my jot note in the moment was, dang, bro. So I was going to call the podcast Finding Joy in the Journey. That was one of my ideas. Also, the other idea was the podcast, like, pause for effect, the podcast. But then anyways, so that was me the name. And then I was thinking about that in this episode that came up again. I mean, like, I can't call the podcast that, but that's a great talk. And I actually, like, read it quite a bit on my mission. I would find talks I liked and kind of dissect them sometimes. And so I went back to just the church website that has the talks on them. And so I'll read the first bit of the quote. We can talk about that for a sec. Read the last bit, and then we'll wrap up. And so.
Okay. Sounds good.
But Thomas S. Monson in 2008 said, he was talking about before, for context, like him and his wife just like learning throughout their lives. And he says, day by day, minute by minute, second by second, we went. So him and his wife went from where we were to where we are now. The lives of all of us, of course, go through similar alterations and changes. The difference between the changes in my life and the changes in yours is not only the details. Time never stands still. It must steadily march on, and with the marching comes the changes. This is our one and only chance at mortal life, here and now. The longer we live, the greater is our realization that it is brief. Opportunities come and then they are gone. I believe that among the greatest lessons we are to learn in the short sojourn upon the earth, and lessons that help us are lessons that help us distinguish between what is important and what is not. I plead with you not to let those most important things pass you by as you plan for that elusive and non-existent future when you will have time to do all that you want to do. Instead, find joy in the journey now. Cool. Well, any thoughts, kind of in line with what we've been talking about, but any thoughts at all on what President Monson said in this talk?
It reminded me of another talk that I was listening to the other day, actually, by Neil A. Maxwell. Okay. It was a BYU devotional. But he talks about how we need to, like, time's not necessarily measured in time. It should be measured in moments, in deeds, in breaths. And he said it a lot more poetically than I just said it. But I really like everything he said about how we need to, you know, take the changes in stride and just enjoy them. I think one of my favorite quotes is, life is to be enjoyed, not endured. And I think when we always are thinking ahead, we can be enduring the moment, thinking, oh, it's going to be better one day when I reach this goal. And really can just enjoy right now. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, if I wasn't going to be happy until I was like 65, then what's the point of,
yeah.
I don't know, right? So, you know, going along with that, I like the last part of his quote. He just says, I'll read that again. I plead with you not to let those most important things, like lessons and stuff he's talking about, pass you by as you plan for that elusive and non-existent future when you'll have time to do all that you want to do. Instead, find joy in the journey now. And so, you know, just be grounded now. I think in the last few weeks of my mission, I was like, oh, I'm going to have all the time in the world. Everything's going to be perfect and line up super good when I get home. And I was very much trying to plan out all the things I was going to try and accomplish. And then, I mean, you know, things aren't like crazy hard and, you know, everywhere right now. But I didn't achieve or get to that elusive, non-existent future because it doesn't exist, right? We just have to find joy in what we're doing right now, kind of focus on the present and make the most of that, even if we're only 21 and still figuring life out. But I'll read the next part of it. So this is later on in the talk, but he continued and said, stresses in our lives come regardless of our circumstances. We must deal with them the best we can, but we should not let them get in the way of what is most important. And what is most important almost always involves the people around us. Often we assume that they must know how much we love them, but we should never assume we should let them know. Wrote William Shakespeare, they do not love that do not show their love. We will never regret the kind words spoken or the affection shown. Rather, our regrets will come if such things are omitted from our relationships with those who mean the most to us. Again, what are your thoughts on that? Turning outward to other people.
That quote of, we do not love, we do not show love, that's really good. I think one of my thoughts on that too is kind of going back to over planning and over, you know, I think sometimes there's like such a focus, as I feel especially in our generation, of like self-improvement and like individuality, and which I think is good. It's good to like improve, but at least for myself, I find times in my life where I'm so focused on, okay, I'm gonna do really well in school, I'm gonna work all the time, I'm gonna do this, and have over focus on my goals. I'm more unhappy because all I'm focused on is myself.
Yeah.
And I put other things aside. I say no to different plans. People want to hang out. I'm doing this. I have to work on this. And I become really unhappy. And not to say that those things are bad. But I think it's balance. But when we love people, we'll give them the time. And if we make ourselves too busy, we can't show people love. And I think that's the point of life, is to show love and be loved. And so, I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, going along with the President Monson theme, this just came to my mind. I think we, again, around the corner, we have like a poster, little like glass, not canvas, like tile painting thing. Okay. You know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah. I know, we had it since I was a kid. This is the quote. I think President Monson said, "Never let a problem be solved become more important than a person to be loved." I think that's the quote. But yeah, right. A problem is solved. Even if you have like well-meaning self-improvement goals, which you should be trying your best. You shouldn't be doing nothing all day. But even when you have those, it's more important to help other people, to love other people, to focus on other people, to even just more broadly like turn outward to God and the scriptures, like you were talking about earlier. But I agree. I think you find more joy when you focus less on yourself and more on other people, despite all the barrages of everything coming your way in life. So.
I totally agree. Well, and it just makes me think of, I think this is advice someone gave me. It's probably a quote from somewhere, but that, sometimes the way that we can be distracted from God is just to be too busy or to be too focused on these things. And to focus on God is to focus on others, because God loves his children. It's Mosiah 2:17. Like, when you're in service of other people, you're only in service of God. That's where joy comes from, ultimately, like you're saying.
Totally. Awesome. Well, we'll wrap up, but thank you so much for coming all this way to my house so far.
The 3-minute drive.
3.5 minute maybe.
Oh, okay.
In traffic.
Yeah, traffic.
But thank you for coming. Just to recap what we talked about, we talked a lot about just finding joy in our journey, being okay with setbacks and challenges. And for example, Drake can learn from this.
Right.
He got dissed pretty hard by Kendrick Lamar, but he can still find joy in this process by focusing on the moment, right?
Yeah.
And so, just to recap your thoughts on this, we've talked about focusing on other people and finding joy, in our life despite our challenges. What message would you have to all 12 of our faithful listeners of this podcast?
What message would I have? Give love to yourself, to others.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace and work hard, And when you do what you need to do and then just love other people, it all works out with God. And just focus on praying, reading the scriptures.
Yeah.
Avoid conflict. Don't beef people online.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
So I wrote down, this isn't in line with where the conversation went, but I wrote down a note for me to remind Anna that I am the master spooner. To explain, in the video before that, we talked about the winner of that spoon thing being the master spooner.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I've changed.
Right.
I've changed. I don't want to remind you of that beef anymore because I've moved past that and I've become a better person.
And that's the beauty of this podcast.
It is. We learn.
You switch back. You're on the next switchback now. You're on another level of the switchback.
I didn't even think of that. Dang.
You're on the next switchback.
Wow. Real time change is happening. But again, Anna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks
today.
for having me.
For those of you who want to follow Anna on her journeys in life, she has a YouTube channel that hasn't been used in how many years?
About 5 years.
5 years. Anna tries new things. How many subscribers do you have?
I think I had 52.
Dang.
I don't know if I still do. But if someone unsubscribed, they are not a real one. But I'm not going to beef them here.
Okay.
I'm not going to beef them.
I recently made a new account, and I subscribed to it. So you've gained a subscriber in the past 2 months.
Subscribe to Anna's Tries New Things.
Yeah.
Maybe I should bring it back.
Maybe you should. Dang.
Wow.
Foreshadowing. Maybe I don't know. Maybe she doesn't bring it back. But anyways, well... at this part, we're just going to talk and wrap it up. In the background, when people listen to this, there's going to be like some music going on.
Oh.
It's going to be pretty cool. So
nice.
we're just kind of fading out right now.
Yeah.
And so like my voice is probably super quiet. If you say something right now, say anything.
Okay. Ramen.
Ramen, right? It's just kind of fading out. And so anyways, thank you for
blessed.
not watching, just listening to the podcast.